Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's AskAwayHealth Live class. I'm sorry we're starting a few minutes late. I wasn't able to schedule my stream on StreamYard as I would usually do because of some hiccups with emails just in the last few hours. But we're here. I'm using YouTube live stream. I'm streaming directly on YouTube. And it's been a while since I did that. So you're going to have to bear with me while I check to make sure certain functions work. But here we are. My name is Dr. Sylvia. I'm a general practitioner, and this is AskAwayHealth, where we love to provide you with simple health information, primarily about families, women's health, and sexual health education is what we're all about here. So thank you for joining me. If you managed to catch the stream live, please come in and say hello. Come and say hi. Today, we're talking about really strange ideas or beliefs that people have about women's bodies, and taking a little bit of a light-hearted look at some comments I came across on a Twitter thread, I think, earlier this week, but which has so much potential for education, because when you look at what people say, some of it is just based out of ignorance, and it affects the way we relate with each other. And so we're trying to fill that gap between when somebody was maybe things they should have picked up in secondary school, high school, but they didn't. And they've gone into adults and in relationships and have weird ideas about female bodies and the way they work. So we're going to go into that. Now, I hope I'm going to be able to share my screen. I don't know if that's possible. I just don't know if that's possible. If it isn't, fine, then I'm just going to read off the tweets that I've got. So I'll make sure I read through them slowly so you can follow me. But welcome. How have you been? How has your week been? Welcome to the weekend. Let's just dive straight into the first one I've got here. So I'm just going to see if I can pull it up. Okay. So I haven't found the share screen functionality here. Okay, do you know what? I'm just going to have a look and see if it's available. It's possible. No, it's not that one. Is it that one? No, it's not that one. I'm sure it's there. It's there somewhere, I'm sure, just that I haven't seen it. Anyway, so let's go to the first one. Now, this is a tweet that was posted initially by @PeachPRC. And this was on the 17th of June. That she posted this, and it's created remarkable interest. She's got at the time of this video, she's got over 38,000 retweets. She's got over 1,800 quote tweets and over 330,000 likes. So yes, this is something that people are interested in. So anyway, her tweet was, "My ex thought the eggs in my ovaries had shells on them." And I think about that every time a man makes a decision on women's bodies. Of course, you know that, you might know that new decisions are being taken about the process of abortion or pregnancy termination in the United States. And so on the back of that, a lot of discussions have been going on about who gets to make decisions about women's body when a woman is pregnant, who makes the decision about whether or not she can keep the child if she chooses to, or if she can terminate the pregnancy if she wants to. So a lot of back and forth. But what I thought was interesting was the idea that there's someone who's thinking that my ovaries have eggs with shells on them. Now, on the face of it, it sounds funny because you think about eggs with shells and you're thinking about the ones in the supermarket, chicken eggs or duck eggs that have the hard shells. So on the face of it, that is amusing. However, let's look at the medical truth behind this. And it is true that the eggs that a woman that are produced or that mature from a woman's ovaries do have a shell. They have a covering. Call it what you like. It's not the tough, hard shell, of course, that you have in the chicken or duck's egg. Remember, those are being laid out in the external environment, and part of the reason for that shell being as firm as it is, if you like, is to protect the structure, to protect the being within it. But female eggs do have a covering, which you can refer to as a shell. So there's a little bit of education, I suppose, both ways, because if there's a man going away thinking that women have tiny little structures within the ovaries that resemble the eggs that you have been sold on the supermarket. That is really amusing. But the truth is that you do have a covering of the egg, the woman's egg, known as a zona pellucida, if you want to go into the intricacies, or if you want to go into the medical terminology. And that is a structure that's recognized in terms of the anatomy. So there is that. It's just that the thought of thinking of, or the thought of a man sitting there somewhere thinking that there are millions of or thousands of these tiny eggs with hard, sort of firm, crackable shells in women's ovaries, I think is what this lady is trying to capture. But let's face it, that the eggs that we produce, that women produce, do have what you can call a shell. There is an outer covering of the egg itself that protects the structure within the egg. So there is that. So that's that one. The second one, which I thought was interesting, and then these are responses to this initial tweet. So the next one I thought was interesting was one shared by @Ave_F. And she says, I once asked a guy, how often does he think women have to change their tampons? He said, once a week. I don't think you can't make these things up. And if you think about it, yes, the big belly laugh, the first instance, but when you think about it and imagine what women go through during their periods, and just because men do not experience these things, the lack of idea or the lack of understanding of what's going on, particularly if it's men with this type of mindset, who will go on to make policy decisions about women's health and women's care. I think it's instructive to be aware of this. I'm not trying to target anyone, not blaming anyone in particular, because where there is a gap, you need to look at how do you fill it, or what's causing the lack of understanding of education. So perhaps this chap didn't pay attention in school when these things were being taught, or perhaps they weren't even covered in school. But women do not change their tampons once a week. And I wish I had a woman who could come on and talk about their experience and talk about what they've found with this. That would be really amazing. If you're joining the live, please say hi. I think there are a couple of people who've popped in. Please say hi in the chat. Please like it, share the link as well to the live. We're having a really fun discussion, but there is some education behind this as well. So please come in and say, and I'm going to pop in from time to time just to check, but I can't share my screen, so I'm just having to swap between one window and the other to read through the material. So of course, if you're a guy who thinks this, and you feel that women have to change their tampons once a week, that's wrong. Please, that's wrong. A woman will change if she wears a tampon to collect the menstrual blood and menstrual product that's coming out through the vagina from the womb. And there's a large volume of that material, bloody discharge that's coming out from a woman's womb. On average, we say between 30 to 50 ml, maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of fluid, if measured in a monthly period, on average, because women are different. Some have bigger flows than that. Some may have slightly less. And some women have very heavy menstrual bleeding. And I have done a couple of videos recently on very heavy menstrual periods. So please go and check that out if that's something that you want to learn about. And so in that wise, if a woman only changed her tampons once a week, I mean, I dread to think about the horror of that kind of scenario, because it's not only unhygienic, but can increase the risk of serious infection. So women will have to change their sanitary material, whether they're pads, sanitary towels, panty liners, tampons, twice, depending on how heavy their periods are. It might be twice every 4 or 5 hours. It might be 3 or 4 times altogether, 3 or 4 times a day, depending on how heavy the flow is. So a woman might have to change her tampon 3 or 4 times in a day, in a 24-hour period. Some women, and I recommended, as you've come out from a busy day at work, you come home in the evening, for example, 5 or 6, change your have a bath, change your tampon. If you're particularly heavy, you might need to change. If you have a particularly heavy flow, you might need to change it again after 3 or 4 hours, because the tampon could get stained and soak through into your outer clothing. So women will change their tampons at least 3, 4, even 5 times in a day. The recommendation is for a woman to change her tampon every time she feels it is soaked. And many women can change their tampons more than 4 or 5 times in a 24-hour period. It depends, just a day. It depends on how heavy their flow is. Many women use menstrual cups as well, and they might need to go and empty the cup, and that might need to happen again every 3 to 4 hours, depending on how heavy their flow is. So it's nothing like once a week. A woman, that makes me worry about somebody who leaves a tampon there for a week. Have you heard of the condition toxic shock syndrome? Now, that tends to happen in the instance where thankfully, women don't intentionally leave their tampons and change once a week. No, but sometimes a lady might forget that she's got a tampon. I've seen a couple of cases and had to examine a couple of cases and had to remove some forgotten retained tampons, because the risk of having that material, it contains blood, it contains other different tissue material that are a very nice focus for bacteria, germs to start growing in and therefore cause infection. So it's toxic shock syndrome is the condition. It leads to potentially life-threatening because it can cause sepsis and death. So please, there is nothing like change tampons once a week. That's just not it. I wanted to put that across. It sounds ridiculous to say, but it's really important that we get that across. Okay, so that's one. That's just one. That's the second one that we're covering. I'm just keeping an eye on the time as well. Okay, so the next one is from @Mandalu6313, who was also responding to that initial tweet from @PeachPRC. And they said, my ex thought you only bled on your period while sitting on the toilet and it lasted a day. He thought I lied about my period lasting 5 days to avoid sex. So this is another strange, funny one. My ex thought you only bled on your period while sitting on the toilet and it lasted a day. So, I mean, I can see why perhaps somebody who hasn't got sisters, or someone who just, I'm talking about guys now who have no reason to be involved in this, wouldn't have a clear notion of what periods are, just the bare essentials of what a menstrual period, the monthly occurrence in a woman, what it means and entails. And to be honest, it'll be good to have an idea of what is taught to classes as people grow up. But thinking that it's because that implies that he thinks is something that women can control. And I think there's another one that actually makes that reference, that it's something that women can control. So no, guys, if there's anybody who thinks that when a woman says she's on her period, it's something that she can, when she feels like, like she feels like going to wee, then she goes to sit down and then the blood flow. No, this is a continuous flow. Excuse me. So from the time, let me clear my throat. I've got a bit of a tickle. And while I'm doing that, let me just have a quick look on the stream. Please don't forget to come and say hi. Please don't forget to share and give the video a like. That would be great. Okay, so going back to this question. So from the time the blood flow, the bloodletting or the flow out from the womb begins, it is a continuous process until the womb is evacuated or emptied of the menstrual flow for that month. So let me just take a quick tour back into where does it come from, because I'm sure that's related. Let's talk about where it comes from. So the woman's cycle is such that, and this is something that repeats every month for a woman who is within the reproductive age, before a woman enters menopause, from the time she starts having her first period. These are events coordinated by the brain, sending hormones or chemicals that trigger activity within the womb and the ovaries, and all that is being controlled and mediated by the brain. That's what the menstrual cycle does. So at some point, the brain says, okay, it's time for the ovary to release a mature egg, and sends a message across, and using some of the hormones, reproductive hormones the woman has. And then the ovaries starts maturing. They've got these follicles full of eggs, and that they've been present from the time a woman is born. But with messages from the brain, the follicle starts to mature, or starts to mature the egg. And when the egg is mature, ready for release, that egg is released, and that's called ovulation. The intention is that that egg be fertilized. So that's the process is, as that egg is released from the ovary, travels out of the ovary, gets into the fallopian tube, and if sexual intercourse has happened and there is semen and sperm within the woman's reproductive cavity, that egg encounters a sperm, is fertilized, and becomes a fetus. It becomes a baby and plants into the womb. That's one pathway. What if the woman hasn't had intercourse, or in the case of somebody who's not sexually active, the egg is released and it travels into the fallopian tube. It makes its way down into the body of the womb. And as all that is happening, it doesn't meet with any sperm. And so that egg disintegrates or dies, usually within 24 hours, up minimum, not more than 48 hours at any point. Usually we say the egg survives 12 to 24 hours. Now, while all this was happening, while the egg is being prepared, is being matured, and it's going through its journey along the tube, the womb itself has also received a message from the brain to say, do you know what, we've got an egg maturing, there's a possibility that this egg might be fertilized, so you start getting ready to carry a pregnancy. And so the womb muscle is getting thicker, the blood vessels are getting larger, they are preparing to do extra work of supporting a new life. But then it doesn't happen. That egg isn't fertilized, the egg dies, and you have dead tissue, and then you have a womb that hasn't received any embryo or fetus to plant into it, and it's all got all this extra tissue. So once that implantation, that fertilization didn't happen, the implantation of the baby didn't happen, then the womb itself begins to shed the excess material that it had prepared to receive a possibly fertilized egg. It is that combination of material that the womb is shedding as the menstrual period. Once the menstrual period begins, it's a flow that continues for the average number of days. For many women is from about 4 or 5 days. Some women may have 3 days. Some women may have longer days, go up to 7 days. It can vary from woman to woman. So and that's why I said at the beginning that these things can affect relationships, because this lady reports that he thought she was lying to him about her period lasting 5 days, but that's what the period does. She can't control it. That's her period. That's just it. She can't control whether it lasts 5 days or 3 days or 7 days. That's of course, outside of any medical intervention. She can't control that. So it's good for people to understand. I thought it was good to just go back on that story, and for people to understand how periods happened. So hi there, I've got somebody else joining this stream, and I don't know who you are, but hello, thank you for joining. Please give the video a like, and stick around. If you've got any question, please ask. If you've got a comment on this particular topic, please ask as well. So we're going to the very next one. I thought that was a really funny one. So we're going to the very next one, which is, I didn't realize women had urethras until I was like 25. So this is from I don't know this. I've cut off his name from the screenshot I took. But this is a comment from somebody saying, I didn't realize women had urethras until I was like 25. But what's interesting is the response. Somebody responded to that particular comment, and this was at Lofi, who said, I'm a girl and I didn't realize till I was like 14. When I asked my mom about it, she said, yeah, like it was obvious. No one has ever taught me that. My mom educated me the basics about periods, but that's it. And school didn't help at all. Oh gosh, so this is what we're saying about where is there gaps? Why are there gaps? Where is the education gap? This is a girl who really, what are we teaching our young men and women about anatomy? Just basic things to understand. So where was this guy thinking women peed from? Now, so let's just clear that very quickly. That men have urethra. The urethra is a tube. okay? And it's the channel between the bladder and outside the bladder. So it's the tube that just comes out from the bladder through which urine comes out of the body, and it is present in both men and women. The urethra in a man is longer, okay? The urethra passes through the penis, and so that when the man wheezes, the channel through which the urine passes is his urethra. Now, during sexual intercourse, when a man ejaculates, you have other structures, other tubules. I don't want to complicate the story, but you have other structures through which sperm is released in that same channel, the urethra, in men. Okay, so there's some tubercles that produce the semen, and when the man is aroused and it comes to climax and ejaculates, those tubes around and the penis, the tissues there, secrete the semen into that same urethra, and semen is produced through that tube. So in the man, the urethra shares that has that double function, if you like. Men use it to urinate, and when they ejaculate, semen also comes through that channel. In women, it's different. The woman has a bladder opening, and she has a vaginal opening, and she has the anal opening towards the bottom. So looking at the picture of a woman's reproductive area, the private area. So the woman's urethra comes out, comes through her bladder and just opens straight. So there's a tiny opening in the woman's labia. So when you look at the folds of the woman's labia, the clitoris, you find that there is a vaginal opening, which is, of course, where penetrative sexual intercourse happens. And if a woman is having a vaginal birth, that's the channel through which she delivers the baby. Above that is the small opening into the bladder. That short tube, that short channel between that opening and the bladder is the woman's urethra. So she doesn't wee. Women do not wee through the same channel that they have their menstrual periods through, and they do not wee through the same channel that they have penetrative vaginal sexual intercourse. As a separate channel in a woman for passing urine. So just to be clear, I mean, we can look at doing a separate video on this where I can put graphics, and it's a lot clearer to people if you want to learn that. But those differences are present, and interesting differences about human anatomy. And it's amusing. Perhaps it's because I'm medical, and it's just thinking that, oh, somebody didn't realize that women actually had urethra. So where did you think women's urine came from? Probably imagine it came from the vagina, which is a bit, oh, really? That's strange. So having that kind of discussion is, I think it's quite funny. Okay, right. So, this is an interesting one. I laughed at that when I read that one. I really laughed at that. I thought it was really funny. Please don't forget to like the video. Thank you so much for supporting. And if you've got any strange ideas or beliefs that you've heard yourself, please come and share. Drop a line in the comment. The same, if you're watching this on replay, please drop any ideas or strange things that you've heard as well. Okay, so this next one, and again, I've cut off their name. Gosh, I'm so sorry, but this one, he says, or they said, one time I got asked by one of my male friends while laying on the beach on a hot summer day. Listen to this one. He said, does the milk, does the milk boil in your boob when the sun is this hot? He knew I wasn't pregnant, so he genuinely thought we have milk all the time. Bless him. Oh, dear. And then somebody else responded under that too, says, not even addressing that part. So she's not even talking about that. Okay, they think we have milk in the breast all the time. No, she says, how hot does he think boiling temperature is? Oh my goodness, the streets of Twitter. Okay. So let's look at this one. Ladies, so do you have milk all the time in your breast? Oh gosh, how do you explain this one now? Okay, so no. Okay, right. Okay, fine. Naturally, normally, a woman who is not pregnant and breastfeeding or lactating does not have milk sitting in her breasts. Okay. um, and and having a milky discharge in a woman who's not pregnant or breastfeeding is a medical problem, is a medical condition that's looked into. The causes have to be looked into. And the whole process of milk being released or breast milk being created is a whole process. Again, triggered by the brain with messages, hormones, being sent through messages being sent through hormones to different parts of the body, to the breasts now, not only to produce milk but to release it when the nipple is stimulated, and the baby is suckling and feeding. So women, our breasts are not full of milk at any one time. It's usually in a circumstance of pregnancy and breastfeeding, because the process starts from pregnancy. A woman's breast begin to change, and the tissues that will produce the milk and the tissues that will be begin stimulated to let down the milk at the right time, are getting prepped for when the baby is born. But there are some conditions, and there are even some drugs or medication that a woman can take that will influence this possibility, that will influence the production of milk outside of pregnancy. That's a medical condition. So just to address that, it's funny, I know, but that's the truth, is that women do not just go around with milk in the breasts. The process of milk development in the breast arises because of hormones being produced, messengers being sent from the brain, affecting the tissues in the breast, and then is stimulated by the baby, by their baby wanting to feed, or their baby crying or suckling, and so on. So that is how that happens. I think I've got a couple more. And this one is another interesting one. So this is at Ribeiro, says, my ex-boyfriend once asked me, why didn't I try to hold period blood like we do with pee? You see, I'm going to put the link to this tweet if you're interested, because I think it's really, the numbers, I've given you the numbers, over 330,000 likes and over 30,000 retweets. So there is some, what's the word I'm looking for now? So women are consistent. They're saying that this is real. This is happening, and you can hear different women responding to different things that they've heard. So I know I'm being really hard on the guys, and I'm sorry. And I think it will be only fair probably to do a retaliation video when we're looking at strange things that we believe about men's bodies. So I'm going to put that in mind to do that in future. But obviously, this came at the time it did, and I thought it was good to educate us about these things. So my ex-boyfriend once asked me, why didn't I try to hold period? Yeah, why don't you try and hold that period blood, for goodness sake? Come on. And so somebody responded to her and says, yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be more convenient? But alas, we cannot. Oh dear. So I think I've touched this particular issue. I've explained how menstrual blood flow is developed and how it happens. It is a flow that continues until the emptying of the womb of the material, the menstrual material. And it's not something that you can control. It's something that it's an event that has a start and a finish. In most women, on average, we said about 4 or 5 days. Some may have a bit shorter bleeds, some may have longer bleeds, some may have very heavy bleeds. But it's not something that is within a woman's control. It's not something that you can open the tap and then close the tap. No, it's not like, oh, I feel an urge to pass menstrual blood and then we nip down to the toilet. No, it is continually passing. And this is why women wear sanitary towels and have cups and sanitary pads. So that was a good one. Right, let's have a look. I've got 2 more. Thank you so much for liking the video. Please share with someone who you think might find it useful. We're just having a bit of a light-hearted laugh at really strange things people think about women's bodies. So I've got this one from @SemenMD. I got that right, @SemenMD, who says, I had an ex-boyfriend. So it's funny how this is all about ex-boyfriends, isn't it? Let's not go there. Okay. I had an ex-boyfriend who literally thought every woman started their period on the 1st through the 3rd of each month. Oh my goodness. And there's another, so somebody responded to that one. Says a co-worker of mine thought the same. You see, this is why I said knowing this thing is important. You might think I'm just having a laugh, but people have these ideas and have the wrong ideas about how someone functions. And these people are either making decisions, they could be employers, they could be policymakers. Listen to this. She says, a co-worker of mine thought the same. And then she says, I was asked to go home because of cramps. Or no, she says, I asked to go home because I have cramps. She's got endometriosis. And the response she got from her co-worker was, well, it's the middle of the month. Why are you having your periods? So how on earth? So this is somebody who believes that all women around the globe, all of us, are bleeding from day 1 to 3. Okay, so if that were the case, why haven't they made those, okay, fine, let's even give him, assuming that were the case, why don't they dedicate those 3 days and say, okay, women's day off or something? I don't know. Because if it was a guy thing, I'm pretty sure there would have been a holiday. Okay, probably. But that's wrong. That is wrong. So I know I'm laughing about this, but okay, fine. Let's say what the facts are. No, that's not the case. Okay, a woman's menstrual period. Oh my goodness, a woman's cycle is so individual. My goodness, no women's cycles, no two women's cycles are the same. Regardless, I mean, goodness, there might be twins. They might be twins or triplets, girl triplets. For goodness sake, they do not have their periods on the same day. Even a woman, the same woman who has a regular cycle, and by regular I mean she has the average 28-day cycle, so every 4 weeks, like clockwork. Even a lady like that may have, in February, she might have her period on the 3rd. Then in March, it might come on the 1st of March. And then in April, it might even come on the 31st of March, the next period. And then in April, it comes on the 2nd. So the point I'm trying to make is that a woman's period can happen any time of the month. Women do not have the same period days as each other. It's an individual thing for each woman. And I'm going to say it again because we don't talk about it enough. Many women do suffer from heavy menstrual bleeding. I have a video loading. I'm about to start editing it where I've talked about the complications living with heavy menstrual bleeding. We don't talk about it enough. And really, we need to be having that discussion. But yes, so to all my guys who think that every woman, I just love the every woman part of it, starts her period on the 1st through the 3rd of this month. That's not the case. Please, let's come away from that mindset. Okay, so lovely. And I think that was the last one. That was the last one. So guys and girls, sexual health education is important. It's important. It can affect individual relationships, couples, okay? And it can affect decision making, workplace related issues. Women make up a significant part of the workforce. In many countries, 50% or more of the workforce. And you're talking about regulated or recognized career profiles or career choices or professional careers, if you like. But many women are also caregivers at home. They're looking after the home. They may not be going out to work, but they're doing a whole lot of work at home, caring for the home, caring for the kids, caring for family, and just being the bedrock. So there is a heck of a lot of work being done by women. It's important that we understand how a woman's body functions. My goodness, we haven't even started talking about the effect of hormones and getting through hormone fluctuations as they might happen, certain conditions that women develop because of hormone changes. We haven't even talked about that. We're talking about just the quote unquote regular monthly occurrence of a woman's period, and how it affects her, how it works. And there's still people who don't understand. So I really appreciate this lady for starting us off on this discussion with let me just get her name back. The lady who started us off on this discussion at Peach PRC. I'm going to share the link to the tweet in the description box so that you can just check it out and have a little bit of a laugh. But if it brings up questions, and if you've had some strange thoughts yourself, there is, I know we've laughed about it, but it's good to know. And I'm really keen for particularly younger people. So whether teens, my daughter is going to be a teenager in a couple of years, and I already talked to her about her body, and it's important that she understands not just her body, about the human body, both the male and female bodies, and the differences and how things work. Because with understanding, you are able to make informed decisions and make informed choices. And that's why I wanted to just bring this across and share with you guys. So thank you for watching. Guys, make sure you go and have a look at my playlist and the most recent videos. There are lots of interesting topics. For some reason, I've sort of taken the battle into the post-tenure camp, and I'm just addressing certain issues about post-tenure, one taking little questions about post-tenure, particularly questions that you guys, you viewers and my subscribers are asking. And I think it's good to get you that information. That way, I think it's a little bit more, gives me the ability to talk at length about different areas. Sometimes on YouTube, we don't have that opportunity to do so. But please go and check out the channel. Don't forget, if you want to speak to a doctor, use our link to our email health information service on AskAwayHealth. And that will be in the description box as well. And we can provide you tailored information about whatever health question or scenario that you wanted to discuss with us. So thank you. I promise I will do a retaliatory video looking at strange beliefs people have about men's bodies. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments. If you've liked the video, please share it with a friend or share it with somebody who you think might find it useful. And I hope I'll see you next week. But in the meantime, have a great weekend. Look after yourself. Look after your families. Bye-bye.